Hello and welcome to week 11 in the psychology of adulthood. And we're in chapter 11, interesting, called Plan B. And then I think about chapter 11, that's like when somebody files for bankruptcy. Plan B. No coincidence there. There's serendipitous thing there. But we talk about here really spending some time where we're talking about generativity, aged when we're getting things going, and certainly I think this is gonna. I'm actually thinking we might have already discussed this for the quite fully in the discussion boards. And when do things go wrong? What do we do? When we have the plan, go ahead, we set the railroad tracks are going along, and then suddenly the tracks aren't there anymore. We take a wicked turn or something comes along. Could be a million different things that can happen that throw us off the rails, and we have to start over or we have to reset. I'm using the term Plan B, and I do want to share this story. Is years ago, the mother of my children, her dad, was a tremendous human being, and he passed away on a head-on collision. Per a young lady was practicing racing, and late at night, and head-on collision, and nobody survived. Just a tragic loss to that family. He was a guide to his kids. He was an inspiration to me, even though I was no longer with his daughter when this happened. It was still very close to him. And he, in an effort to publish his philosophy before he passed away, he wrote a document called Plan B. And that document outlined his thinking about what it meant to start over. And it was very profound, very private document. Nothing that but he shared it with the family, and I have a copy of it. But I thought the idea of a Plan B, that he was prepared for a Plan B. He had lived through a Plan B, Plan C and D, to tell you the truth. But that it was such a good summary of what we would call resilience. What happens when your plans go awry? So let's talk about this resilience idea. Now, resilience has been a focus of the field of psychology and trauma psychology for a very long time because it's a mystery. There's parts to it, and we're going to get into that, and we're going to examine that, but particularly when we look at individuals who have gone through early childhood trauma, and seemingly some seem to be able to endure that and go on to thrive and experience, at least as far as we can tell, very little long-term repercussions from that. Others, on the other extreme, we may have people that are completely destroyed by these things psychologically and never able to really return to full functioning. And then, of course, everything in between. And that scale has been described sort of as an umbrella term of, well, those who have more ability to withstand bad things happening have this quality called resilience. What is it? How come this child didn't and this child did? Maybe two siblings, maybe twins in the same family, and one had resilience and one didn't. What is it about this thing called resilience that allows some people to be able to withstand those kinds of occurrences in their life? It's still a mystery. This chapter is not going to solve that particular question. It does examine couple different ways in which people have looked at this, and we're going to look at it from the adult perspective. Now, certainly there's a great number of adults that achieve adulthood. They have a history of trauma that has affected them or not affected them to a particular degree, and the degree to which they had resilience as a child is going to be the degree to which they have resilience as adult. We call that particular thing um, continuity theory. Sorry, had to look that up. Um, Continuity theory says that the coping mechanisms and ways in which we understand the world that we settle around when we're children continue through our lives. We're consistent. So the individual who was having a really difficult time early in life may continue to have difficult times later in life when similar challenges come along. So again, this idea, we seem to be talking about this consistent quality of individuals. But then, of course, we want to investigate this to the point that we don't just say, hey, you lucked out, you got this, and the other person, sorry, you didn't get resilience, so, you don't have it. We also want to be able to kind of understand this to the point that maybe we can design interventions to give people tools that will allow them to have more resilience. And this, where modern thinking on that happens. So here I have a list. I put a list that I gathered with some research that about what so far have we been able to understand are the factors associated with adult resilience. So an individual is going along. Now, first and foremost, less childhood trauma, probably the number one factor associated with adult resilience. So if they did not have those trauma before, they're that much, because of continuity theory, they have that much more capacity to be resilient in current and future challenges. But there's more. Biopsychology matters. The hardware matters. Brain, healthy nutrition, good wiring, good programming, all of that exists, that arose from way back, maybe through different trials and errors, through having parents that taught you those things, experiences that taught you those things. That's very important. Positive emotions, a collection and ability to express positive emotions, look at the positive side of things, optimism, self-regulation, capacity for me to be able to stop myself from the immediate sort of shoot from the hip sort of reactions that we can have under emotional situations. Related to that, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a EQ, as is the capacity that an individual has to manage their own emotions, to use emotional expression to communicate, to understand the emotions of other people, and be able to use that understanding to effectively work with those individuals. Oh, I'm glad I recorded that. That's the best way I've heard that said. So that those four skills, all associated with emotional intelligence. So having those things creates resilience. Recognizing yourself as complex. And I'm gonna say this is probably the one that I feel the strongest. I lack some areas of emotional control. There's no doubt about that. Anybody who knows me, your emotional intelligence. But not only do I recognize my own complexity, I sort of savor it. I think my weirdness and complexity is fascinating. I find the weirdness and complexity of other people just as fascinating. So just that kind of like, simplistic explanations as to another person's behavior don't usually ring true to. I think people are complex. I think when we look at somebody's behavior, and I look at my own behavior, it's sometimes not really a simple process, and I like that. Grieving, the capacity, let's say, to move from plan A to B means to withdraw emotional attachment from plan A. Always wanted to be a marine biologist. Now I'm not. I'm not on that path anymore. So I gotta all the emotional connection I'd had, all the images that I had, the railroad tracks that I'd built that involved everything in terms of marine biology. I had to get over that. I had to release that in order to embrace another kind of future. And in that process, to give that is not just a chuck and aside. I had a lot of investment in that. Give myself to the understanding that I needed to be sad about that for a while. I needed to be sad because I put a lot of energy into that, and it's not fun to have things thrown off the rails. My recent retirement movie, it wasn't necessarily the exact plan that I had, but as the opportunity presented itself, it came a little early, and I had to, currently still am in the process of changing my connection, my emotional connection to that job at KVCC, and moving that some other place, and while I grieve KVCC at the same time. When I'm sad about it, I'm sad about the connections and what I was doing there, and then now switching that over to new goals: faith, spirituality, and a sense of the cosmos, a cosmology, an understanding of the existence of our world, whatever it is. Having those pieces contributes to resilience. And finally, what I think is probably going to be a keystone here is community, connecting with other people. And we'll see that when we talk about late life, about the connections with other people is a vital, vital aspect of aging. So we have been, for better or for worse, but I'm going to say we have been fortunate that we have lived through a time where we had something like the pandemic. And I don't mean that to glorify any tragedy or anything like that. The pandemic really brought to the front the notion of resilience. Probably, there's nobody alive that remembers an event like that. I mean, almost every, we had the world wars and we had those kinds of things, the sort of global thing that was going on, but most of those people were gone, and now this whole world experienced this trauma. Um, and what that did in terms of people becoming aware of what was important to them, their weaknesses, the people suffering, loss, change, how they dealt with change, and all these things. This is going to be really, studies are coming out. I mean, in my journals that I read, I don't think there's a single journal that I have received and read that has not included at least an article related to pandemic of some kind. It's just a huge opportunity, I guess, to understand this on a global scale. And each of you had your pathway that went in there. Now, as it turns out, prior to the pandemic, while I was at KVCC, I hired this young woman to teach psychology for me. Her name was Amy Morin. And Amy had been through a profound traumatic experience as an adult. And I just knew that because she shared her story with me. Now, that was years ago. And she told me she was working on a writing project. And she ended up coming out with a book called The 13 Things That um, Emotionally Strong People Don't Do. That book was featured on Dr. Phil, and Amy got a new career. She's now an author full time. Um, she has come up with a number of other books, the same sort of theme, and tremendous, tremendous individual. Uh, every once in a while, I'll send an email just to say that I know a famous author, and I like to talk about her work in my classes when we talk about resilience. Her own journey of resilience is commendable and inspiring, and it inspired her to share what she came to know is the important things to avoid. We talked about what you need here. What can you avoid doing? And they crossed. Sometimes you got to do this by avoiding this, and you'll see there's definitively some crossover between Amy Warren's work and the adult resilience list that I just went over. But let's take a look at this short list. Here's Amy. This is from her the jacket of her cut of her book. And let's go through these individually. First one, don't waste time feeling sorry for yourself. Don't give away your power. Don't shy away from change. Don't focus on things you can't control. Don't worry about pleasing everyone. Don't fear taking calculated risks. Don't dwell on the past. Don't make the same mistakes over and over. Don't resent others' success. Don't give up after the first failure. Don't fear alone time. Don't feel the world owes you anything. And don't expect immediate results. Now, this is a big list, but you can see almost intuitively how this is a pretty profound set of advice for what not to do. I mean, there's biggies for me is, the don't focus on things you can't control. That's a big one. Pleasing everyone. I don't think I've ever tried that. Dwelling on the past, making the same mistake over and over. Got that. Sometimes being envious of other people's successes. These are Amy's hindrances. If you want to put it over into Eastern philosophy, they talk about the hindrances to human growth. These are hindrances. If you are feeling sorry for yourself, that is keeping you from growing. If you're giving away your power, that's keeping you from growing. Those kinds of things. So we have these two sets of ideas. We have the factors associated that we found relate to adult resilience, and we have Amy's. I just looked at my notes, and it's the 13 things that mentally strong people don't do. That's the true title. Get the book. She goes into all of these things. She's a wonderful writer. Really, really cool resource. So in the discussion, I want you to share when things have gone wrong. And you know what? I think we've already done this. There's been all over this class. There's been people very, very, very open about what's gone on in their lives. So pick a different one, or maybe pick. Um, let's try and mix it up a little bit with this discussion, because I think this class has really bonded a lot on sharing of their personal stories, and many of you have shared about your plan Bs. That's been literally right there. You said this happened, and off I went into this new direction. So be open to discussing other aspects of your life, or whatever. Do whatever you want with the discussion. I am fully confident that you are going to do well on this. The assignment is it's kind of long. For each one of the adult resilience, psychobiology, positive emotions, self-regulation, emotional intelligence, right through those, and then all 13 of Amy's things that mentally strong people don't do, I want you to write 2 or 3 lines, small paragraph for each one, your current status on that thing. So there's a lot of little paragraphs. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 little paragraphs. Just to write down off the top of your head. There's really no right or wrong answers in this, but having sort of, and then at the end, what I want you to do, I want you to put a little summary there, and you look at the lists above, and take on for a moment, this is kind of what the field has to offer you in terms of what you can do to prepare for, in many cases, the inevitable plan B. How are you going to be resilient when plans don't work out? Or how have you been resilient when plans haven't worked out? So at the end, what I want you to do is we're going to pick a couple of areas that you are particularly weak in, and I want you to describe potentially what you could do about that. If you, for example, you shy away from change, how can you address that? How would be, and I mean this in, in real, you don't just say, well, I'm going to take more change. Just, well, how are you, pick one or two of areas and really describe how you might go about actually addressing that deficit or that weakness or that opportunity for growth, how you would do that. And of course, feel free to do that. The nice thing about taking classes like this is you get some good ideas on how to make your life better. I've been studying this all this time, and I learn from all of you, and I learn from everything I read. I learn every time I teach this class, and it has been to my benefit, no doubt, on dealing with the ups and downs of my own life. So take this time to kind of like work that through. So there's all the little paragraphs. Some of you may have great strengths in there. Some of you are like, I'm sort of okay, depends. And then other areas you'd be like, that's going to be my Achilles heel right there. If I have to go to a plan B, or when I went through my plan B transition, that's the one I had the most difficulty with. And then that kind of brief plan on how you attend to address that. So, and that's it for this week. That's our chapter 11, Plan B. Have a great week. I'll see you in the discussions and take care.